Welcome back to my yard. Now I know my upload schedule is kind of all over the place, but this is just a fun hobby I do on the side. So family and work come first, but I try to get the videos out when I can. Now in spring, it is always a busy time for everyone, and those of us that love spending time in their yards and gardens, it is the time of year to push hard to get the yard set up to enjoy the entire warm season. Today is some of the things that I wanted to work on to try and get the yard going for the season, and hopefully you find it something that will be useful to you for your yard, or just enjoy my suffering to get everything done. Now, over a couple of the 2023 season videos so far, it's been obvious I've had extensive damage from the voles. During the spring cleanup, I was worried that the areas wouldn't come back, especially the areas that were almost eaten bare by the voles, like the section in my front yard. So now, after finishing my mom's front yard renovation, watch that video if you'd like to see what I did there, I had a fair amount of grass seed left. Now this is the same grass seed cultivars that I used for my yard, however the ratios were just a little different compared to the bag I usually use, but I didn't want this to go to waste, so I figured I'd make use of it to patch some areas in my yard. First, I started by spreading a bunch of dirt across the areas that were the most devastated sections. I got a 4-way mix from a local landscape supply company, and using a shovel just walked over the areas that were damaged and just gently shook the shovel to try and get a small amount of soil in a targeted area. Now I could have used the Landsy spreader that I used at my mom's place, and it worked great over there. But for most of this, I was trying to target just the areas that were the low spots where the grass was eaten. So I spread the dirt as evenly as I could, then came through with just my general push broom from the garage and used it to work the soil into the canopy of the grass and level the soil level a little bit. By no means are these areas level, but they are better than they were. Once the soil was done, in the damaged areas I spread a bunch of grass seed in the area and gave it a light rake to work the seed into the soil and walked around the area to push the seed into the soil. After I was done the larger damaged areas, I went to work on the front yard, right next to my front steps and sidewalk. Now there's a pretty good drop from the sidewalk to the grass level that had settled over time, and I wanted to smooth that out. I wasn't going to level the lawn as my front yard strip is on a pretty good slope. I would have to completely rework the entire grade to make it smooth, and I didn't have the time, energy, or budget to make it look perfect. Just trying to make it look better with what I could afford. So I used a bunch of the soil I had just picked up. In total, I think I'd got around 2.5 yards of soil for the projects this spring, and dumped a couple of wheelbarrows of soil down, spread it out as evenly as I could, then tamped it down. I didn't have a machine tamper, don't have a hand tamper, or at least one that isn't broken, and don't have a roller, so time to do a shuffle. I just slowly shuffled along the whole area and packed down the soil. I didn't do the whole thing at once. I put down the equivalent of about 5 centimeters or 2 inches of soil, then packed it down. After I finished packing it down, it had compressed down to just over 2 centimeters or just under an inch. I did this over and over again, putting a layer of dirt down, smoothing it out, and packing it down. Leveling like this takes a lot of dirt, and I think used about 5 or 6 wheelbarrows of dirt to smooth it all out. And once the soil was to the level I wanted, I did a quick gentle rake on the packed soil just to loosen the surface layer of dirt for the seed to get into. Now that the seed bed was prepared, I spread the grass seed over the dirt by hand. If you have a hand spreader or a drop spreader, they would work for this area, but my broadcast spreader would just throw seed everywhere, even with the edge guard on, so I just hand spread it again. Once the seed was down in place, I took the rake and just very gently raked the soil to cover the seed and got ready for the next part of the yard to work on. Now, I have a big, beautiful yellow lab golden retriever cross named Candy that is a cuddly dope and is a great family dog. However, larger breed of dog also brings an issue with dog spots. Dog spots, for those that don't know, are circles in your lawn caused by your dog urinating an area, and when they do, they have very high concentration of nitrogen in their urine, high enough level to kill your lawn. So many times you'll see a dead spot of grass and the grass around it will be growing like mad and deep green from the nitrogen having been diluted enough to the point that to help the grass grow and not kill it. Now, there is a lawn care myth about female dogs' urine being worse than males, and this isn't true, to a point. The chemical makeup of the urine is the same for the nitrogen content. However, male dogs lift their legs usually and do more of a sprinkle over an area, while female dogs pop a squat and do a direct stream down there, concentrating the urine on one spot. Now, to fix a dog spot, it's pretty simple and only takes a few minutes. First, you start by trying to rake out as much of the dead material as you can. You don't want to completely tear up the area and dig a hole. Just try and get down as close to bare soil as you can. Once that's done, I spread some fresh soil over the area, just a thin coating. Grabbed a pinch of grass seed and spread it evenly over the bare soil. Put a fresh layer of soil on top of the grass seed, just enough to generally cover the grass seed. You don't need a heavy layer of soil, just enough to keep the roots growing. Give it all a gentle pat, push, step to get the seed pressed into the layers of dirt. Simple, easy fix. There are some products out in the market that are lawn patch kits that have seed, soil mix. You just put on the affected areas. However, the grass seed in these kits aren't always the same that you have in your lawn. I had this at our old house. I used one of those kits and it worked as advertised. I'm guessing it was a perennial ryegrass with how fast it germinated. However, it was such a different color of green to the rest of my lawn that the dog spots basically stood out as green spots on the lawn still. The product did as advertised and filled the spot though, and did it very quickly. By using the steps here, doing my own patches, I'm able to control the grass seed that is used to better blend into my lawn. You use what works best for you. Now excuse me for a minute as I finish the few dozen spots left in my yard. Now after finishing all those dog spots, I'd also had during this time finished building that new garden box for Mrs. Canuck that she wanted. I used a few wheelbarrows of soil I had to mostly fill the new garden box. We also transferred a couple of buckets of soil from the old garden boxes into the new one as well to make room in the old garden boxes. In all three of the garden boxes, we spread some manure, compost, and peat moss into all three garden boxes. Get that extra organic-based material into the soil for the vegetable garden boxes to freshen the soil in the old boxes and just give an extra punch to the new one. Once the soil was spread around the whole yard and in the garden boxes, the leveling was done as much as I could with the soil that I had. The ever-critical step of watering. Now, the freshly seeded areas, you don't want to drown the seed or wash it away, but you want to make sure it stays damp enough for the seed to germinate. For myself, that meant I'd go out and water for a few minutes, all the areas, 2 to 3 times a day, depending on if I am home and the temperature outside. We had some really hot days for our area, and on those days I wasn't working, I'd probably 4 times a day give it the areas a dose. Days I was at work, Mrs. Canuck tried to keep up with watering as best she could, but with 3 kids and activities on her own while I'm at work, she did her best, which was pretty damn good. Now, the areas that the seed went down, I'm not going to cut for quite a while to try and allow the best chance for the seed taking. While the sprinkler is working, I'm going to go have a cold one. If you want to come join me, and until next time, cheers.